Welcome, everyone. Today, we're joining friends Lisa and Mark as they plan a relaxing weekend trip. Lisa, you first suggested taking a break from work. What inspired you to think about a getaway?
Honestly, after a long week, I felt we both needed some time away to recharge. A change of scenery, even for 2 days, can do wonders for stress levels and productivity. Studies even show short trips boost mental health.
That's so true. Mark, when Lisa brought up this idea, what kind of destination popped into your mind first?
My first thought was a lively beach town somewhere we could try water sports and enjoy the nightlife. I love a little excitement after a routine week, though I know Lisa prefers quieter places.
Lisa, you mentioned preferring the mountains over the beach. Can you explain what makes the mountains more appealing for you?
For me, the mountains offer peace and fresh air. They're less crowded, so it's easier to relax. Plus, mountain trips are often more budget-friendly. According to a travel survey, 62% of people say nature helps them unwind more than city spots.
Mark, how did you feel about switching from your original beach idea to the mountains?
I hesitated at first because I associate mountains with calm, maybe even boring weekends. But Lisa convinced me there are plenty of fun activities like hiking or campfires that we could try together.
This brings us to an important skill, making and responding to suggestions. Lisa, how did you propose the mountain idea in a way that encouraged conversation, not disagreement?
I used phrases like, "How about we try the mountains this time?" and "Would you be open to a quieter trip?" These open-ended questions invite Mark's opinion, making it easier to discuss without sounding demanding.
Mark, how do you respond when you'd rather do something different but want to keep things friendly?
I might say, "That sounds nice, but I'd rather go somewhere with more action." Or, "The mountains could work, what activities would we do there?" This way, I share my preferences without shutting down Lisa's idea.
Once you settled on the destination, you faced another decision, how to get there. Lisa, you suggested taking the bus. What was your reasoning?
Taking the bus saves money and avoids the stress of driving. It's also eco-friendly. Public transportation reduces carbon emissions. Plus, we could relax and enjoy the scenery instead of focusing on the road.
Mark, you preferred driving. Why did you think driving would be better for this trip?
Driving gives us more flexibility. We can stop whenever we want and pack as much as we need. It's convenient, especially if we want to explore remote trails. According to travel experts, 74% of weekend travelers choose cars for freedom.
After transportation, you had to pick where to stay. Lisa, you lean towards booking a cabin. What are the advantages?
A cabin is cozy and private, often surrounded by nature. It usually costs less than a hotel and lets us cook our own meals, which saves money. Staying in a cabin feels more like an adventure, away from the crowds.
Mark, you initially preferred a hotel. Why is that? And how did you two reach an agreement?
Hotels offer comfort-clean rooms, breakfast, and service. But after weighing the pros and cons, I agreed a cabin would make this trip unique. We compromised by choosing a cabin with modern amenities, blending both our preferences.
Let's talk about activities. Lisa, you prioritized relaxing activities while Mark wanted adventure. How did you balance your different interests?
We made a list of what each of us wanted. I suggested light hiking and sightseeing, while Mark added more energetic options like mountain biking. By alternating between relaxing and active plans, we both felt satisfied.
Mark, was it difficult to compromise on activities, or did you see benefits in mixing things up?
At first, I worried I'd miss out on excitement, but mixing in some downtime made the adventure parts more enjoyable. In fact, research shows varied activities improve overall satisfaction on trips.
For our listeners, mastering travel vocabulary is key. Lisa, which words or phrases did you find most useful during your planning?
Words like getaway, cabin, budget, scenic, and hiking trail came up often. Expressions such as "how about," "let's compromise," and "do you think we should?" made our conversations smoother and more collaborative.
Mark, did any particular phrases help you express your opinions or negotiate plans effectively?
"I'd rather," and "that sounds fun, but let me politely disagree or suggest alternatives." Using these phrases made it easier to express my preferences while showing respect for Lisa's ideas.
Disagreements are natural when planning together. Lisa, how did you keep discussions positive even when you disagreed.
I try to focus on our shared goal, a great weekend. Instead of saying no, I'd offer alternatives, like, that's interesting, but what if we try this instead? This keeps the conversation open and friendly.
Mark, how did you feel about compromising, especially when you had a strong preference?
It wasn't always easy, but I reminded myself that compromise means both people get something they want. In relationships and teamwork, this skill is essential for success and for avoiding arguments.
Before leaving, packing is crucial. Lisa, how did you approach preparing for the weekend, and what vocabulary does this involve?
I made a checklist: pack clothes for different weather, bring a first aid kit, and prepare snacks for the road. Talking about packing uses practical words like essentials, gear, and backpack. Organization makes travel less stressful.
Mark, do you prefer to pack spontaneously, or do you follow Lisa's organized method?
I'm more spontaneous, which sometimes means I forget things. But after hearing Lisa's approach, I realized the value of planning ahead, especially for mountain trips where shops aren't nearby.
After the trip, what did you both learn not just about traveling, but about communicating effectively in English?
I learned that using polite language, making clear suggestions, and expressing preferences are key for real-life conversations. These skills help avoid misunderstandings and make planning enjoyable.
Mark, did this experience improve your confidence in English and in planning trips together?
Absolutely. Practicing real-world vocabulary and phrases made me more fluent. Plus, our teamwork showed that compromise and good communication can make any trip a success, no matter the destination.
Welcome back to our Travel English podcast. Tonight, we join Lisa and Mark as they scramble to pack for their weekend mountain trip. Mark, let's start with you. How are you feeling as the clock ticks down?
Honestly, I'm a bit anxious. I always think I have everything, but then I end up forgetting something important. Having just one night to pack adds pressure, especially since the mountains can be unpredictable.
Lisa, you've got your checklist out. Why is having a plan so essential when packing last minute?
A checklist keeps me organized and reduces stress. In a rush, it's easy to overlook basics like a phone charger or hiking boots. Plus, planning ahead makes it less likely we'll have to buy expensive replacements at our destination.
Let's dive into clothing. Lisa, what's your approach for packing clothes for unpredictable mountain weather?
Layering is key. I always pack a thermal shirt, a lightweight sweater, and a waterproof jacket. This way, I can add or remove layers as the temperature changes, rather than packing bulky, single-use items.
Mark, do you agree with Lisa, or do you tend to pack differently when it comes to clothes?
I usually just throw in a hoodie and hope for the best, but I've regretted it before. After getting soaked in a surprise rainstorm last year, I see why packing layers and a raincoat matter.
Moving on, let's talk about shoes. Mark, what's your strategy for picking footwear for a mountain trip?
I'm tempted to just wear my sneakers, but Lisa insists on bringing hiking boots. I know boots are heavier, but are they really necessary?
Lisa, what's your perspective? Why prioritize hiking boots over lighter shoes?
Hiking boots offer ankle support and grip, especially on rocky or muddy trails. A twisted ankle in the mountains could end the trip early. According to the American Hiking Society, boots reduce injury risk by nearly 30%.
Let's discuss backpacks. Lisa, how do you decide what fits and what stays behind?
I start with the essentials clothes, food, water, then add extras if there's space. Overpacking makes the backpack heavy, which can make hiking exhausting. I use compression bags to save space and keep things organized.
Mark, do you find it difficult to limit what you pack, especially when you want to be prepared for anything?
Definitely. I want to bring everything just in case, but carrying too much slows me down. Sometimes I negotiate with Lisa about what's truly necessary.
Food choices can make or break a trip. Mark, how do you decide what snacks or meals to bring to the mountains?
I usually grab chips or candy, but I've realized protein bars, dried fruits, and nuts keep me full longer. It's about balancing taste and nutrition, especially since we'll be hiking all day.
Lisa, any additional tips for packing food efficiently and safely?
I pack food in resealable bags, which saves space and keeps things dry. Also, I bring a small, insulated container for perishable items. It's important to consider food allergies and energy needs for long hikes.
Safety is crucial. Lisa, what's in your first aid kit, and why is it a must-have for mountain trips?
My kit includes bandages, antiseptic wipes, pain relievers, and allergy medicine. I also add blister pads because hiking can be tough on feet. Accidents happen, and being prepared can make a big difference.
Mark, have you ever needed first aid on a trip, or do you think it's over-preparing?
I used to think it was overkill, but once I cut my hand on a sharp rock, I was glad Lisa had supplies. Now, I always double-check that we have a kit before leaving.
In today's connected world, electronics are part of every trip. Mark, what's your routine for packing devices and chargers?
I usually remember my phone, but forget the charger. Lisa reminds me to bring a power bank, which is a lifesaver when the battery dies and there's no outlet nearby.
Lisa, how do you balance digital tools with traditional navigation like maps?
I pack both. Phones can lose signal or run out of power, so I always bring a paper map and compass as backups. According to a 2021 survey, 40% of hikers have gotten lost due to dead batteries.
Let's talk about weather protection. Lisa, what items do you bring to stay safe from sun and rain?
I never forget sunscreen, sunglasses, and a wide-brimmed hat. For rain, I pack a lightweight poncho and waterproof backpack cover. Skin damage and hypothermia are real risks, even on short trips.
Mark, have you ever underestimated the weather and faced consequences?
Once I got sunburned on a cloudy day because I skipped sunscreen. I learned the hard way that mountain weather changes fast, so now I follow Lisa's advice.
Packing together can spark debates. Mark, how do you and Lisa resolve disagreements about what's really needed?
We use the better safe than sorry rule, but sometimes compromise. For example, if I want to bring extra gadgets, Lisa asks if they serve a clear purpose. We focus on essentials and share items when possible.
Lisa, do you have strategies for convincing Mark to leave unnecessary things at home?
I explain the impact on weight and comfort and suggest alternatives. If he insists on bringing something, we test if it fits without making the bag too heavy. Communication and logic help us decide together.
As we wrap up, Lisa, what's your routine for final checks before leaving?
I run through my checklist, double-check essentials like water, ID, and tickets, and make sure nothing is left charging or drying. It's like a pilot's pre-flight check. Missing one step can cause problems later.
Mark, any advice for listeners who tend to forget things when packing in a hurry?
Lay everything out before putting it in your bag and ask a friend to review your list. Even taking a photo of packed items helps. It's all about building better habits through practice.
Welcome back to our Travel English podcast. Today, we join Lisa and Mark as they set off for a mountain adventure. Mark, can you share how you felt at the very start of the trip?
Absolutely. I was buzzing with excitement. I'd packed snacks, planned the route, and imagined the fresh mountain air. But as we'll see, even the best laid plans can be upended by real-life mishaps.
That's a great point. Many travelers focus on the destination, but preparing for the journey itself is just as important. Lisa, what steps did you take to ensure things would run smoothly?
I double-checked our checklist, made sure we had essentials like water and a first aid kit, and tried to keep our mood light. Even so, no plan is foolproof, especially when unexpected challenges arise.
Let's dive into the first challenge. Mark, you realized you forgot the tent. How did you express your frustration in English without making the situation worse?
I said, "Oh no, we forgot the tent," rather than blaming anyone. Then I added, "It's not the end of the world." These phrases help communicate disappointment while keeping the mood constructive.
That's a useful strategy for travelers. Lisa, how did you respond to Mark's mistake to keep things positive?
I reassured him by saying, "Let's not panic. Maybe we can find a store nearby." It's important to focus on solutions, using phrases like, "What should we do now?" to move the conversation forward.
Soon after, you took a wrong turn and got lost. Mark, how did you discuss this problem without escalating tension?
I tried to lighten the mood, joking, "Well, at least we'll discover a new place." Then I asked, "Can you check the map?" Using humor and polite requests can ease stress in confusing situations.
Lisa, why is it important to stay calm and use supportive language when directions go awry?
Staying calm prevents arguments. I replied, "Let's figure this out together." This phrase shows teamwork. It's also good to use phrasal verbs like backtrack or look for signs to clarify next steps.
Suddenly, you lost cell phone signal. Many travelers face this. Mark, how did you react? And what language helped keep things practical?
I admitted, we've lost signal. We can't use GPS right now. Then I asked, should we wait or keep driving? It's helpful to describe the issue and pose open-ended questions to decide together.
Lisa, what alternatives did you suggest when technology failed?
I suggested, maybe we can ask someone for directions. This shows resourcefulness. Expressing ideas like, let's look for a gas station, or we might find a map inside, keeps the conversation solution-focused.
Then the car began making a strange noise. Mark, how did you describe the problem to Lisa, and what vocabulary did you use?
I said, the car is making a weird rattling sound from the front. Using specific adjectives like rattling, clunking, or squealing helps others understand the issue. I added, we should pull over and check.
Lisa, how did you suggest the next steps and keep Mark calm?
I replied, it's probably nothing serious, but let's be safe. Then I used the phrasal verb break down. If the car breaks down, we'll need help. It's important to offer reassurance and practical advice.
Faced with several problems, how did you two decide what to do next? Mark, what phrases did you use to weigh the options?
I said, we can either wait for help or try to fix it ourselves. Using either-or structures clarifies choices. I also asked, what do you think is safer? To involve Lisa in the decision.
Lisa, can you explain the value of using first conditional sentences in these moments?
Absolutely, I said. If we can't fix it, we'll ask for help. The first conditional helps predict outcomes and plan accordingly. It's a great way to communicate possible results in real-life scenarios.
Eventually, you needed to ask a stranger for help. Mark, what polite language did you use in this real-world context?
I approached and said, excuse me, could you help us? Then I explained, we're a bit lost and our car is making a strange noise. Using could you and excuse me softens the request and shows respect.
Lisa, why is tone so important when asking for assistance from strangers?
A friendly, polite tone makes people more willing to help. I added, sorry to bother you, but we'd really appreciate any advice. This builds rapport and increases chances of a positive response.
The unexpected problems delayed your arrival. Mark, how did you express your feelings about the delay without sounding negative?
I tried to stay positive, saying, I guess our adventure just got a bit longer. I also joked, at least we'll have stories to tell. Expressing disappointment with humor or optimism can lighten the mood.
Lisa, how did you help Mark adjust his expectations and manage the situation?
I reminded him, it's not the end of the world. Then I suggested, let's just enjoy the journey. Focusing on the experience rather than the setback helps keep everyone motivated and patient.
Looking back, how did you both turn these mistakes into learning opportunities? Mark, what did you take away from the experience?
I realized that forgetting things or getting lost is just part of travel. Next time, I'll double-check our gear and download offline maps. Mistakes teach us to be more prepared.
Lisa, do you think these challenges improved your teamwork and communication?
Definitely. We learned to support each other and solve problems together. Using phrases like, let's figure it out, kept us focused on solutions, not blame. Every setback helped us grow as a team.
To wrap up, what practical advice would you give listeners for handling travel problems in English?
Stay calm and use polite, clear language. Practice phrases like, could you help me? Or, what should we do now? Remember, expressing your emotions is okay, as long as it's respectful.
Lisa, any final thoughts on building confidence in these situations?
Absolutely see every challenge as a chance to learn. Expanding your vocabulary, using first conditional sentences, and keeping a positive mindset will make you a more confident traveler, no matter what comes your way.
Welcome back to our podcast. Today, Lisa and Mark are meeting for coffee after their mountain adventure. Lisa, how do you feel now that you're back from the trip?
Honestly, I'm still thinking about it. It feels strange to be back in the city after spending so much time in nature. I keep replaying moments in my head, especially the first view from the mountain peak.
It's always a shift going from the outdoors to daily life. Mark, do you feel the same way, or are you just glad to have a hot shower again?
I have to admit, the hot shower was a highlight after all that hiking. But, like Lisa, I keep remembering little details. I think that's why sharing stories after a trip is so important. It helps you process and appreciate everything you experienced.
Let's dive into your first moments on the trip. Lisa, what did you expect before you arrived, and how did reality compare?
I expected peaceful walks and calm scenery, but when we got there, the trails were steeper than I imagined. It was more adventurous and, honestly, a bit more exhausting than I had planned.
That's a great example of how trips often surprise us. Mark, did anything catch you off guard right at the beginning?
Definitely. I thought I packed everything, but I forgot the tent poles. That made setting up camp pretty memorable for all the wrong reasons. It turned into a comedy of errors, but we managed.
Now that you've had time to reflect, what was your favorite part of the trip, Lisa?
My favorite part was watching the sunrise after our hike. The colors over the mountains were breathtaking. It felt like time stopped for a moment, and all the hard work was worth it.
That sounds incredible. Mark, do you have a different highlight, or does the sunrise win for you too?
The sunrise was amazing, but for me, the campfire at night stood out. We shared stories, roasted marshmallows, and I even tried telling a scary story, although I think I just made everyone laugh instead of scared.
Trips always have their ups and downs. Lisa, what was the most challenging moment for you?
Getting lost on the second day was definitely stressful. We took a wrong path, and for about 30 minutes, I was worried we'd never find our way back. Looking back, it's funny, but at the time, it was tense.
Mark, what was going through your mind when you realized you were lost?
At first, I tried to stay calm, but I could feel everyone's nerves. I remembered reading that you should stay put if you're lost, so we stopped and checked the map. It was a good reminder to prepare better next time.
Let's talk about emotions. Lisa, how did you feel during both the high and low points of the trip?
During the hikes, I felt a mix of excitement and exhaustion. When we finally reached the top, it turned into pure joy. But when things went wrong, like with the tent, I felt frustrated but also amused. It's funny how those moments become stories you laugh about later.
That's a great insight. Mark, do you agree that sometimes the worst parts make the best memories?
Absolutely. I think the uncomfortable moments, like getting soaked in the rain, actually bonded us. Now, when I think back, I don't remember the cold as much as the way we joked about it together.
Storytelling is such a powerful tool, especially when reflecting on travel. Lisa, how do you choose which moments to share with friends who weren't there?
I try to start with a hook something funny or surprising. For example, I'll say, "Do you remember when Mark tried to cook breakfast and almost set his socks on fire?" That grabs attention and leads into the bigger story.
That's a clever approach. Mark, do you think storytelling helps you remember the trip better?
Definitely. Explaining what happened forces you to organize your thoughts. Plus, telling stories with emotion makes the memories more vivid, both for you and your listeners.
This episode is perfect for practicing past tenses in English. Lisa, can you give an example of how you use the past simple and past continuous to describe your trip?
Sure. For example, we hiked up the mountain on Saturday. That's past simple. But for something ongoing, like it was raining while we were setting up the tent, I'd use the past continuous.
Great examples. Mark, why do you think it's important to mix these tenses when telling a story?
Mixing tenses helps your listener understand what happened first and what was happening at the same time. It's like painting a picture of the event with more detail and clarity.
Let's focus on vocabulary. Lisa, what words did you use most to describe your feelings and experiences on the trip?
Words like exhausting, relaxing, adventure, and highlight came up a lot. I also used phrases like, "It was totally worth it," especially when talking about the tough hikes.
Mark, do you have any favorite expressions for describing travel memories?
I love using "my favorite part was," or "I didn't expect," because they make the story personal. Saying, "Do you remember when?" is also great for bringing back shared moments.
After every trip, there are lessons learned. Lisa, what would you do differently next time?
Next time, I double-check the packing list, especially for things like the tent. I'd also plan the route more carefully. But honestly, making mistakes is part of the adventure.
Mark, any advice for future travelers based on your experience?
I'd say, expect the unexpected. No trip goes perfectly, so being flexible and keeping a sense of humor makes all the difference. That's what turns problems into memories.
As we wrap up, why do you think reflecting and sharing stories about trips is so valuable, Lisa?
It helps you relive the experience and appreciate it more deeply. Telling stories also connects you with others, letting them share in your adventure, even if just through words.
Mark, any final thoughts on how storytelling shapes your memories and language skills?
Storytelling brings your trip to life again. It's great practice for language learners too, because you use a range of vocabulary and tenses. Plus, it keeps the adventure going long after you've returned.